rise up, come swift as a deer. Manasseh, rise up, come let go of your fear. Simeon, rise up, come let you so high. Rise up, come let go of your fear.
Let me change up. I gotta 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 change it. As I'm feeling that, but I'm not feeling it. Feeling it, but I'm not feeling it. That's where I'm at right now. Properly. Oh, I pulled out of my song. I had a song. Listen, let me start off properly. My mind is God's mind. I'm always reflecting divine wisdom and divine intelligence. My brain symbolizes the capacity to think wisely and spiritually. God's ideas unfold within my mind in perfect sequence. I'm always poised, balanced, serene, and calm because I know God has the perfect solution to every single one of my needs before the foundations of my mother's womb. Before the foundations of this earth. You say amen to something, I say, God, you promised. You could say Selah, I say, God, you promised. Especially since I know they twist and turbied up the stories. And if you don't read the stories the way that they're put out there, you'll be fooled. You'll be fooled into being like a Tamala man, all proudly singing a story about Esther and don't know the whole research and development behind the story of Esther. How come Esther is the only book of the Bible? Talking about take me to the king. Do you really know what that story talking about? There's a reason why when they used to try to get me to sing that song in church, I can't get the nerve up to even try to. Let me tell you how that song rings and resonates in my head. When I hear, I ain't saying nothing about Tamala Man. I think she's very beautiful. I love to watch her act. She's the only one that out of all the things and scenes that, what's his name, play, script out. Hers seemed to be the only realistic character out of all the characters. But I'm saying, when it came to her with that song, I never tried to learn it, because the way that I've always seen the story of Esther just didn't seem right. So anytime I hear this, take me to the king, there's a part in the tone and a break in that song that immediately transfers over to Whitney Houston, You Can Count on Me, her and CeCe Winans. Every single time, no matter how I try, I hear that song. When I get to a certain part of that song, the tone Whitney Houston and CeCe Winans, You Can Count on Me, comes in. I ain't making this up. I'm not exaggerating or elaborating. So I hear take me to the, when she gets to the verse, because I promise you, I don't know the song. I only know it because it played so much in frequency. You know how you might not listen to a song, but every time you turn on the radio, it's playing. And when that song came out, every time you turn on the radio, that was playing. But that story of Esther is a whole truth of the matter of what I've been telling y'all about two different kind of beings, and how Israel, the one over there that's causing war and all that, is founded from Solomon's temple, and Esther was a part of that, giving them back the authority that was taken from them, where God said, because of Solomon, y'all, and Solomon temple and what he did, y'all will lose it. But then she went and she scammed her way into the real lines of Judah. And if you read the story for what it is, you'll see that it's the truth. Them giants that was living holy, and trying to live and do exactly what God told them to do. We don't plant no groves, don't do this. But Solomon's temple was doing. She was one of the whores that came in, even though they tried to make it like she was all nice and clean and all that. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how ain't nothing good about that Take Me to the King song. Not when you read the Bible for what it's saying. Huh? She gave the wear fit like jujus all the authority that they have and continue with today. Because of Esther, that's why you get them feeling like they's the top of the top and the cream of the crop, and have no respect for Jesus, and feel like if you say something against what they doing, you was an anti-Semitic, you are anti-Semitic. For real. You have to study to show yourself approved, and just don't accept everything that is at face value. Huh? Yep, I changed to King Ellis. Straight on light. I decided to come off, and then I'm going to show you, like I always do, how Esther and who she was. You could see it clearly in the Federal Register through these presidential documents. Nope, I ain't making it up. She is a part of the satanic clan. Ready to fill you up with fire and brimstone if it come to a head. King Ellis, where you been, King Ellis? I saw you last night. In Young Elder Chat. You know I'm blocked over there. But I saw you. That was a good bill too. That was. But do you know the song "You Can Count on Me"? How I should play it, but I'm pretty sure with Tamala Man them, if I play "Take Me to the King," I'm gonna get blocked. They're gonna block this right here. And I definitely dare not try to play "You Can Count on Me" with Whitney Houston, whoever holding her state, Bobby Brown holding on to it tight. I don't know if he holding on to it or Ray J holding on to it. Whichever one of them holding on to her state, I might get blocked and banned. And then CC Whining, it's always a hit or miss. The Whinings, them, it's a hit or miss. Every now and then they get to go through. But when I hear "Take Me to the King," see, like most of the churches that I've been in, when it comes to songs like that, they be like, "We want you to sing that. Practice that. We want you to sing that." And I couldn't bring myself to practice and sing it. So I never really learned it. But the part where she say, dun, 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 dun. And then my mind transitions over to "You Can Count on Me." I don't know why. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I do know why. Let me go ahead and start reading Esther. See, today I'm going to start with the Bible. I'm going to go to Esther. I'm going to go to Esther. And I'm going to show you. You can go and look for yourself just based on how she got in there and got all close and hunky-dory and swapped her DNA, the full Mordecai. Do you understand that Mordecai was a giant? Okay. Go to you could go to Esther. Let's see where. Let's see. After July, then before February. And when the king got mad, right here. And he told him about the gallows and he wouldn't bend down. Because they had a arrangement anyways. 300. Killing 75. That's when once she finished what she did, then the Jews felt like they could come in and do whatever. Right here. In 7. Esther 7. At verse 9. And it says, Sir Haman has just ordered a 75-foot gallows constructed. Why it needed to be 75 feet? To hang Mordecai, the man who saved the king from the assassination. Queen Esther was a whole Jewish scamming whore. Yes, she was. Yes, she was. And they bought her, huh? She came in there because if Mordecai was holding $20 million back then. If you base $20 million way back then, and the Jews had done lost their rights because of Solomon, but they was trying to get the Treasury Department to get that money back. And they sent Esther in there because the 12-finger beings, the ones that all of the days was based on 12, the hours was based on 12 hours, everything that you can count, they had to count on their fingers. They had to count on their 12 fingers, the original. That's why it's 12 tribes, 12 hours, 12 months. But they want to mess you up with the days of the week, huh? Everything, 12 gates on your body. 12. And back then, $20 million. What would $20 million be today? Take me to the king. Hey there, Latrell Tinwell. The best of the best. Or the worst. Greater light. So let me go ahead and read. So you again, I just had to point out, if you go to my video yesterday, I showed you another receipt showing the distinguishment between and the separation between the different types of beings. So now here with Esther and them, they put Esther on a pedestal somewhere when this story just ain't right. Something just ain't right. What Mordecai asked Esther for help. I should start at the beginning, but I don't want to be all long and drawn out. I don't want to be all long and drawn out. Do you think you help escape? Deliver the Jews. The Jews are to be killed. Mordecai. Where I'm going to stop at? Assassinate. Yeah, let me get right here. I'm going to start with Mordecai asks for help, and then Esther intercedes for the Jews. Now, not the Jews, the original tribes, but the ones who trying to steal the money and wanted the wars and the rumors of wars, the ones that traveled down the line of Solomon's temple that was built off of the 72 demonic spirits, and then 700 demon from 700 of his 700 wives and 300 imps from his 300 concubines. That Israel that exists over there pretending that they rule over Jerusalem. When Mordecai learned what he had done, he tore off his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes, went out into the city crying with a loud, bitter wail. Then he stood outside the gate of the palace, for no one was permitted to enter in mourning clothes. And throughout all the provinces, there was a great mourning among the Jews, fasting, weeping, and despair as at the king's decree. And many lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther's maids and eunuchs, what's an eunuch? A eunuch. What's a eunuch? Do you know what a eunuch is? A eunuch is a transgender. A eunuch is a transgender. Okay? Esther wasn't living holy. She wasn't a holy being. Talking about take me to the king. So Esther's maids and her eunuchs came and told her about Mordecai. She was deeply distressed and sent clothing to him to replace the sackcloth, but he refused it. And Esther sent for Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs who had been appointed as her attendant, and told him to go out to Mordecai and find out what the trouble was and why he was acting like that. She knew why he was acting like that. She was sent in just for that. She's the one that did the whole setup. So Hathach went out to the city square and found Mordecai just outside the palace gates and heard the whole story from him and about the 20 million that Haman had promised to pay unto the king's treasury for the destruction of the Jews. See, Haman knew. Haman was already instructed by God. He said, look, they be talking about Holocaust, Holocaust, Holocaust. God had wanted them taken out and destroyed way back then. It wasn't only because of David marrying into the tribe of Judah, the original tribes. It was only because David married that they had some type of, he had some type of grace. Because David ended up following the proper way and the proper protocol. He said, I repent for my whole nation, God. Thank you for sending Abigail, the joy of the Father, huh? She's an intermediary for me, huh? They always had to use mediums. Here come now, they still trying to figure out how to, because Solomon, he turned his back on God. Solomon said, no, God, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I don't care. I don't care what you got promised. I'm the wisest one. You gave me all the wisdom, all the demons, huh? And I can outride whatever it is you got. I can write it out, huh? But it didn't work. Now here, dynasties later, they sent Esther. They said, well, we got to find a beautiful woman to trick the king. Mordecai was a giant. The giant still roamed. Mordecai also gave Hathach a copy of the king's decree dooming all Jews and told him to show it to Esther and tell her what was happening and that she should go to the king and plead for her people. See, he wasn't her people. Mordecai wasn't her people. He was trying to be all right for everybody. They try to make the giants out like the giants were bad. See, the giants was rich. The giants owned all the money. And the money didn't really mean nothing to them because they already knew they were the altars. They had direct connection with God, huh? They knew it was in their blood. It wasn't nothing to them. So he letting her know, like, look, I care about everybody. Huh? So here's a message to you. You can save your people if you want to. She turned the switcheroo. She knew what the plan was from the beginning. She helped devise the plan. So Mordecai also gave Hathach a copy of the king's decree, dooming all Jews, and told him to show it to Esther and tell her what was happening and that she should go to the king and plead for her people. He didn't say our people. He said her people. So Hathach returned to Esther with Mordecai's message. Esther told Hathach to go back and say to Mordecai, all the world knows that anyone, whether man or woman, who goes into the king's inner court without summons is doomed to die unless the king holds out his gold scepter. And the king has not called for me to come to him in more than a month. So Hathach gave Esther's message to Mordecai. This was Mordecai's reply to Esther. Do you think you will escape there in the palace when all other Jews are killed? If you keep quiet at a time like this, God will deliver the Jews from some other source, but you and your relatives will die. What's more, you can who can say but that God has brought you into a palace just for such a time as this? Then Esther said to Mordecai, go and gather together all the Jews of Shushan and fast for me. There go the fast. We was talking about the fast, right? Huh? Wasn't you talking about the fast, Latrell Tinwell? Huh? She must have been fat. But instead of her fasting, she said, look, you go fast for me. Huh? Take me to the king. You could tell this is another sign here that she and her kind didn't have a direct connection with God. Because fasting is a holy thing. And she said, look, y'all fast for me. Who tells somebody something like that? Huh? You go fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days. Night or day. That's like me, Latrell Tinwell, huh? As thin as you are, and I say to you right now, huh? You love me? Go fast for me, huh? You go fast. And if you fast for me, I'll probably be the one to lose the weight, right? Wasn't you that's over there talking about fasting? Huh? Esther said, you fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day, and I and my maids and my transgender unit will do the same. And then, though it is strictly forbidden, I will go see the king. Now, don't that sound like a whole pile of scamming? And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai did as Esther told him to. If she looked like that Asherah, whatever that I showed yesterday with that hole in front the way, I don't know what was wrong with him. Esther intercedes for the Jews. Now here she go for her people. 3 days later, Esther put on her royal robes and entered into the inner court just beyond the royal hall of the palace where the king was sitting upon his royal throne. And when he saw Queen Esther standing there in the inner court, he welcomed her, holding the golden scepter to her. See, she made it and fronted like he ain't want her. She made up this whole, her and her ancestral bloodline that she was messing with already, and made up this story. So now Mordecai, you know, the giants be slow. They got so much love and empathy. They be slow. So, you know, if the story went the way she had really told, like it was the way she made it seem, when she walked in, he would have been cussing her out, huh? Doing like P. Diddy did in the hotel or whatever it is that they got that show this image of somebody that don't even look like, can't tell who that is. You can't even tell who that is. Those people in them, that fake thing they got going on now is a distraction. But he probably would have been doing, the king would have did her trying to figure out where you been all this time, all these days out there whoring around and all that, huh? He was glad to see her. Where you been, huh? So Esther approached and touched his tip. Huh? See, that's the problem. That's the problem. The mouth. She touched the tip. And he wasn't even worried about what she was doing out there. Then the king asked her, what do you wish, baby? You've been gone so long. You got people out there thinking I'm doing you so wrong. What you want, baby? Anything for you, baby. See? You see what I'm saying? If she's the queen, how come she ain't living in the palace? How come she out there making up stories? Take me to the king. Singing songs and don't know what they singing about. So what do you wish, Queen Esther? What is your request? I'll give it to you. Even if it's half the kingdom, I'll give you anything you want. She said, anything. See that? And Esther replied, if it please you, your majesty, I want you and Haman to come to a banquet I have prepared today. See, she cooked up a dinner, She had a banquet already ready and everything. Now, if she got Mordecai thinking if she go to the temple, she gonna get killed. If she go to the temple, he need to fast for her. He need to be weak. He need to go ahead and make sure he don't eat for 3 days and be weak. While she fattening up her king, that she done made him think that if she even enter into the temple, he gonna kill her. Lies. I don't see how anybody ever took this story and put her on a pedestal the way they did. Every time I read this story, I said it ain't right. Something ain't right. And Esther replied, well, if your majesty, I want you and Haman to come to a banquet I have prepared for you today. She had already prepared the banquet, meaning she already knew when she walked in, the king was going to be like, baby, where you been? The king turned to his aides. Tell Haman to hurry, he said. So the king and Haman came to Esther's banquet. During the wine course, the king said to Esther, now tell me what you really want, baby. I'll give it to you, even if it's half the kingdom. He kept saying it. Esther replied, my request, my deepest wish, is that if your majesty loves me and wants to grant my request, that you come again with Haman tomorrow to the banquet I shall prepare for you. And tomorrow I will explain all of this, what this is all about. Now, she couldn't explain it at the first banquet. She had to go prepare another dinner. Thou prepares the table before me in the presence of my enemies. Now, he was so happy. It says Haman becomes furious with Mordecai. Now, here you go. What a happy man was Haman as he left that banquet. Oh, yep, I get to eat tomorrow too. Oh, she back home, huh? She home, huh? She came back to me. She been gone all this time, huh? And I missed her so much, I offered her half the kingdom. She ain't even acting like she concerned with the kingdom, huh? But she gonna put another dinner, huh? But when he saw Mordecai there at the gate, not standing or trembling before him, he was furious. However, he restrained himself and went home and gathered together with his friends and Zeresh, his wife, and boasted to them about his wealth and his many children and promotions that the king had given him, and how now he had become the greatest man in the kingdom next to the king himself. So then he delivered a punchline. Yes. And Esther, the queen, invited only me and the king himself to the banquet. She prepared for us. He was like, yeah. It's just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Yes. And Esther, the queen, invited only me and the king himself to the banquet she prepared for us. And tomorrow we are invited again. But he added, all this is nothing when I see Mordecai, the Jew, just sitting there in front of the king's gate, refusing to bow to me. Now, the thing is, he was an original Jew. He is a giant. And remember, when he addressed Esther, he said, your people. And if you go to the beginning of the story of Esther, she had already devised plans before she even went in. But everybody missed the distinguishment of the people. Because here you can tell that Mordecai was a giant. Well, suggested Zeresh, his wife, and with all his friends, get ready for a 75-foot high gallows. And in the morning, ask the king to let you hang Mordecai on it. Huh? Hang that giant. And when this is done, you could go on your merry way with the king to the banquet. And this pleased him immensely. And he ordered the gallows to be built. He said, y'all hurry up now. Go ahead and build a gallows to hang a giant. How tall was he if you had to get him to hang from a 75-foot gallows? The king honors Mordecai. That night, the king had trouble sleeping and decided to read a while. So he decided to do his research and development. He said, something ain't right. Something just ain't right. And I need to study to show myself approved, because we have codes in the codex, in the bloodline. And just something ain't right. Let me read. So he woke up in the middle of the night. The king woke up to read. And it says, he ordered the historical records. Didn't I tell y'all? This right here is historical records. It's science. It's historical records. And it takes love and light code to be able to rightly divide it. He ordered the historical records of his kingdom from the library, and in them he came across an item telling how Mordecai had exposed the plot of Big Thana, Big Thana, and Teresh, the two kings, eunuchs, watchmen at the palace gates, who plotted to assassinate him. What a reward did we ever give Mordecai for this? The king asked. His courtiers replied, nothing. Who is on duty at the outer court? The king inquired. Now, as it happened, Haman just arrived in the outer court of the palace to ask the king to hang Mordecai from the gallows he was building. Now, let me show you something just with this script, this verse between 6 and 5. If you look at the Bible the same way, as I keep explaining that Revelations is prophecies about today, he went into historical records to see what was about to happen to him in that very moment in time. He didn't go on no dream realm. He didn't go, and he went into the historical records, into a library, and pulled out the information that determined what was about to happen to him at that time. These are things that people missed, that in my research over the years, all the Bible studies, and I'm talking about years and years of Bible study, especially in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. But the Seventh-day Adventist Church is Bible for breakfast, Bible for lunch, 365 days of reading the Bible back and forth. So right here, where it shows he went into historical records using a code to determine what was about to happen to him in the current time that he was living in. And if The Federal Register knows, or the government knows, that when John used historical records to determine and leave messages about what was going to happen these days, and that these days in Revelations is prophecies about you. You are written, and John saw you. Then, because they have the codes, they're basing everything around the same method all those years ago. Okay. So the courtiers replied to the king, Haman is out there. Bring him in, the king ordered. So Haman came in, and the king said to him, what should I do to honor a man who truly pleases me? And Haman thought to himself, whom would he want to honor me more than me? So he replied, bring out some of the royal robes, and the king himself has worn, and the king's own horse, and a royal crown, and instruct one of the king's most noble princes, a noble, he had noble holy oils waiting, and a robe, and robe the man, and lead him through the streets on the king's own horse, shouting before him, this is the way the king honors those who truly please him. Excellent, the king said to Haman. Hurry and take these robes and my horse, and do just as you have said. To Mordecai the Jew who works at the chancery, follow every detail you have suggested. So Haman took the robes and put them on Mordecai, and mounted him on the king's own steed, and led him through the streets of the city, shouting, this is the way the king honors those he delights in. Afterwards, Mordecai returned to his job, but Haman hurried home utterly humiliated. See, whatever Esther was doing now, here you go. He was humiliated that he had to do that, because in his mind, he wanted to hang Mordecai from a gallows, a 75-foot one to be exact. Afterwards, Mordecai returned to his job, but Haman hurried home utterly humiliated. Haman, have you heard? When Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends what had happened, they went into back chats and went to Discord and started talking about it. They said, if Mordecai is a Jew, you'll never succeed in your plans against him. To continue to oppose him would be fatal. While they were still discussing it with him, the king's messenger arrived to conduct Haman quickly to the banquet Esther had prepared. So the king and Haman came to Esther's banquet. Again, during the wine course, the king asked her, what is your petition, Queen Esther? What do you wish? Whatever it is, I'll give it to you, even if it's half of my kingdom. And at last, Queen Esther replied, if you have won your favor, O king, if I have won your favor, O king, and if it please you, your majesty, save my life and the lives of my people. For I and my people have been sold to those who will destroy us. We are doomed for destruction and slaughter. If we were only to be sold as slaves, perhaps I could remain quiet, though even then we would be incalculable damage to the king, and no amount of money could begin to cover. Let me read that again. If we were only to be sold as slaves, see how they lie and they say in the stories that they were supposed to be slaves and they were the slaves, how they take and flip the scripts through different governmental documents. She said, you look, if we were to be slaves, that'd be one thing, but perhaps I could be quiet. But even though there would be incalculable damage to the king that no amount of money could begin to recover. And he was like, what are you talking about? Now you talking about money. What you talking about? King Ahasuerus demanded, who would dare touch you? Esther replied, this wicked Haman is our enemy. Uh-oh. And Haman grew pale with fright before the king and queen. The king jumped to his feet and went out to the palace garden as Haman stood up to plead for his life to Queen Esther, for he knew that he was doomed. In despair, he fell upon the couch where Queen Esther was reclining, just as the king returned from the palace garden. Well, he even raped the queen right here in the palace before my very eyes. So now here come false accusations. Huh? She set all of this up now in advance. So now he begging and pleading for his life. And when the king walk in, now he thinking like, oh, now, and you gonna try to take it too? Huh? Remember, all she did was do to touch his tip, and he ready to give up the whole kingdom. So can you imagine the power that she had over him? So the king roared. He got mad. And see, the king roared. It doesn't say he yelled, he screamed, he roared. Roar. One of my songs, I got loud roar. If you listen carefully in the song, it says on God's promise. Loud roar. Instantly, the death veil was placed over Haman's face. Then Harbona, one of King's aides, said, Sir Haman has just ordered a 75-foot gallows constructed to hang Mordecai, the man who saved the king from the assassination. It stands in Haman's court. Hang Haman on it, and the king ordered. So they did, and the king's wrath was pacified. Now she done got rid of one of the originals. Taking them to dinners where the king ain't even there. Cooking for them. She was already sleeping with him. She was already doing things behind closed doors, being gone away from the palace and doing her going and then he got cocky with it. He started getting cocky with it. Him and Mordecai was the same size. When he doing all this with Queen Esther, and then when Mordecai looking at him like, you ain't said nothing, nickel. I'm just saying, huh? I'm just saying, this is the way the story go. If you come and read it for yourself, and rightly divide it, you'll see it the same way. So then, now the kingdom got, not just because he still ain't got the whole story from her. The first dinner and banquet where she invited the two men to come there with the king. And as soon as he get in the face, she gonna switch up the whole story. And because whatever it is that she had going on, So on that same day, King Ahaz, wait, let's say it right. Aha. Remember I said about the Ahasuerus gave the estate to Haman, the estate of Haman to the Jews' enemy to Queen Esther. So now that's one giant and his money. She done got that treasury. Then Mordecai was brought before the king, for Esther had told the king that he was her cousin and foster father. He was her cousin and foster father. The king took off his ring, which he had taken back from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai, appointing him prime minister. And Esther appointed Mordecai to be in charge of Haman's estate. And now once more Esther came before the king, falling down at his feet and begging him with tears to stop Haman's plot against the Jews. Now, ain't Haman dead or about to be killed? Didn't they just kill Haman? And the king held out the golden scepter to Esther. So she arose and stood before him and said, "If it please your majesty, and if you love me, send out a decree reversing Haman's order to destroy the Jews throughout the king's provinces. For how can I endure to see my people butchered and destroyed?" Then King Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther and Mordecai, the Jew, "I have given Esther the palace of Haman, and he has been hanged upon gallows because he tried to destroy you. Now go ahead and send a message to the Jews, telling them whatever you want in the king's name to seal it with the king's ring so that it can never be reversed." Never, never, never. Whew. Immediately, the king's secretaries were called in. Now, here they put a specific date. This specific date, let's put it on a calendar, huh? July 23rd. They were specific about this date for a reason. It was now July 23rd. It was now the 23rd day of the month of July. And they wrote, as Mordecai dictated, a decree to the Jews and the officials, governors, princes of all provinces from India to Ethiopia, 127 in all. The decree was translated into languages and dialects of all the people of the kingdom. Mordecai wrote in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed it. Mordecai forged his signature. In the name of King Ahasuerus, and sealed the message with the king's ring, and sent the letters by swift carriers, riders, camels, mules, and young dromedaries, drones, used in the king's service. This decree gave the Jews everywhere permission to unite in defense of their lives and their families, to destroy all forces opposed to them, and to take their property. Wait a minute. If she was just trying to stop them from being killed and being slaves, but she just had Mordecai, why she didn't, if she's the queen, take the ring herself and send this message out? Now, he made a verbal decree out loud, but they bound it in writing with the ring and the seal, saying that it could never be reversed, right? See, Jesus was sent so that it could be reversed. Huh? That he would open up the blueprint. He said, "I got the blueprint to reverse this curse." Now, let me finish. This decree gave the Jews everywhere permission to unite in the defense of their lives and their families, and to destroy all forces opposed to them, to take their property. The day chosen for this throughout all provinces of King Ahasuerus was the 28th day of February. If you go back in February, and I was saying, forget that. Anyways, here we go. It further stated that a copy of this decree which must be recognized everywhere is law, must be broadcasted. Back then they was using a broadcasting system to all the people so that the Jews would be ready and prepared to overcome their enemies. So the mail went out. They had a mailman. What did they use? USPS, FedEx, the brown trucks, UPS. Who did they use? Because it got out swiftly. Now, did they use Western Union's messages? But since it was about money, did they use Wells Fargo messaging system, broadcasting system? I mean, AI existed back then. You know, you had the whole town of AI. How did they get this message out swiftly through a broadcasting system? Carried out by the king's couriers and speeded by the king's commandment, the same decree was also issued at the Shushan Palace. Not Shushan, the Shushan Palace. Then Mordecai put on the royal robes of blue and white. Is the blue cross, that put out the covenant, the OPM, not OPP, OPM, through Google, the non-compete covenant, signed and approved by Barack Biden. Mordecai put on the royal robes of blue and white and great crown of gold. They were still using Solomon's flag colors, the blue and white. With an outer cloak of fine linen and purple, and went out from the presence of the king through the city streets filled with shouting people. And the Jews had joy and gladness and were honored everywhere. And in every city and province, as the king's decree arrived, the Jews were filled with joy and had great celebration and declared a holy day. And many of the people of the land pretended to be Jews, for they feared what the Jews might do to them. That's when they started wearing a fit like juju. And you have so many, they pretend to be Jews and don't really know the history and the story of the Jews. And they read these scriptures that tell you the truth and fill it in with words and transverse etymology and so on and so forth, where deciphering it and this is hard for those who don't have a telescope or a microscope to look through your light code and your DNA to rightly divide it. Now listen. So this isn't the first time that the giants, in all their love and light and wanted to honor God appropriately because they know where they came from, got fooled and tricked. And Mordecai was not her cousin, and he was not her foster father. She used Mordecai. So on the 28th day of February, the day the two decrees of the king were to be put into effect, the day the Jews' enemies had hoped and vanquished them through, though it turned out quite the contrary. The Jews gathered in their cities throughout all the king's provinces to defend themselves against anyone who might try to harm them. But no one tried, for they were greatly feared. All the rulers of the provinces and governors, officials, aides helped the Jews for fear of Mordecai. For Mordecai was a mighty name in the king's palace, and his fame was known throughout all the provinces, for he had become more and more powerful. They used his frame. They used his height. They used where he was from, because he was an original. You know, it's always been where they had to take down the giants. Now that here's he walking around, and it seems that Esther has made him as a statue for the ones who wear fit like Juju. Because now they're carrying that name, the Lion of Judah, with high authority. Now they're feared all over the world. So all the rulers and provinces of the governors, officials, and aides helped the Jews in fear of Mordecai. For Mordecai was a mighty name in the king's palace, and his fame was known throughout all the provinces, for he had become more and more powerful. But the Jews went ahead on that appointed day and slaughtered their enemies. So now they didn't even have a reason to kill. Which is a continuous replay. They even killed 500 men in Shushan, and Shushan sided with them. I'm going to show you how that's significant in the Federal Register today. They also killed 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Jews' enemies, the Parshandathas, the Dolphins, the Ashpathas, the Porthas, the Adalias, the Aridathas, the Parmashas, the Areses, the Arides, and so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this might be the original, the true names of the 12 tribes. I'm just highlighting this. This is just for me, my side studies. So that's, because remember, Haman was a giant too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And the Shushans, 12. That's 12 right there. I'm going to come back to that later for myself. Oh, wow. Something I missed. Okay. So they went and they started killing these tribes off. But they did not try to take Haman's property. Late that evening, when the king was informed of the number of those slain in Shushan, he called for Queen Esther. He said, the Jews have killed 500 men in Shushan alone, he exclaimed, and also Haman's 10 sons. If they have done that here, I wonder what has happened in the rest of the provinces. But now, what more do you want? It will be granted to you. Tell me, and I'll do it. You know, what are you doing? And Esther said, if it please your majesty, let the Jews who are here at Shushan go do again tomorrow as they have done today, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon gallows. So the king agreed, and the decree was announced that at Shushan, and they hung up bodies of Haman's 10 sons, and the Jews at Shushan's gathered together the next day also and killed 300 more men, though again they took no property. Meanwhile, the other Jews throughout the king's provinces had gathered together and stood for their lives and destroyed all of their enemies, killing 75,000 of those who hated them. But they did not take their goods. See, they lived all this time off of words. So obviously, all these other, their so-called enemies, was using the word based off anti-Semitics. The Semitics of their words is what offended them. They turned around and killed them because they've been living all this time. It ain't been no wars. Throughout the provinces, this was done on the 28th day of February, and the next day they rested, celebrating their victory and feasting and gladness. They did all that blood, slaughtering, killing, and all again, just based on words, because obviously all that time there was no killing and stuff going on. It was just, if somebody used a word against them, they said, hey, you hate us, and we gonna kill you. But the Jews at Shushan went killing their enemies the second day also, and rested the next day with the feast and gladness. And so it was, the Jews were in the unwalled villages throughout Israel on this day did have an annual celebration on the second day, and they rejoiced and sent gifts to each other. Wonder what kind of gifts. Was they sending fingers in boxes and stuff? What kind of gifts? After all that slaughtering. Mordecai wrote a history of all the events and sent letters to the Jews near and far throughout all the king's provinces, encouraging them to declare an annual holy day on the last 2 days of the month. And I know he did this through Esther, lying, talking about that's her cousin. To celebrate with feasting and gladness and giving gifts of these historic days when the Jews were saved from their enemies, when their sorrow was turned to gladness and their mourning into happiness. So the Jews adopted Mordecai's suggestion and began this annual custom as a reminder of the time when Haman, son of Hammedatha and Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had plotted to destroy them at a time determined by the throw of dice, and to remind them that when the matter came before the king, he issued a decree causing Haman's plot to be boomerang, and that he and his sons were hanged on the gallows. That is why this celebration is called Purim. Oh, I got to look that up. Purim, because the word for throwing dice in Persian is pur, P-U-R, like that water, clean water. All the Jews throughout the realm agreed to inaugurate this tradition and to pass it to their descendants, to all who became Jews. They weren't really Jews. It wasn't in their blood. They had to become a Jew. All who had to become a fit like Juju. They declared they would never fail to celebrate these 2 slaughtering days at the appointed time each year. It would be an annual event from generation to generation, celebrated by every family throughout the countryside and cities of the empire, so that the memory of what had happened would never perish from the Jewish race. Meanwhile, Queen Esther, I always tell y'all there's 2 sides. There's Abigail. There's Abigail, who was married to David. Now, Esther, her mama name was Abigail. Okay? Later adopted by Mordecai the Jew. She was adopted by Mordecai, an original Jew, right? And because he was a giant, see, to take me to the king, think of the take me to the king story. She was already a queen. She already had favor with the king. Her people wasn't Jews until she was adopted by Mordecai, who was a giant. She used Mordecai. If she was a wife of a king, having sex with Haman and all that, what is so upright about her? Take me to the king. Queen Esther had written a letter throwing her full support behind Mordecai's letter inaugurating his annual feast of Purim. Remember, Mordecai forged the letter. Why she didn't do it herself? In addition, letters were sent to all Jews throughout 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, with messages of goodwill and encouragement to confirm these 2 days annually as a feast of Purim, slaughtering. But let somebody, if I go back and say, look, y'all slaughtered all my people based on this historic event here, I'd be wrong. I'm just saying, this just, for historical. But if I talk about what they say happened in the Holocaust, that's anti-Semitism. But to this day, they still celebrate all the slaughtering that they did back then. I don't get it. Something ain't right. I don't get it. The whole flag was re-erected based on Queen Esther's scheme scamming. And her sloppy toppy. I'm just saying that's what the Bible say. I'm not making it up. That's what the words say. Remember when I was looking yesterday, and when it got down to the bottom of the screen, I was showing y'all, I said, Esther, that deity there, her breast augmentation, the whole statue, all of the statue looked messed up. Every single statue they showed of who she is looked messed up. And then at the end of it, it was a big mouth. I'm talking about, it was like a head like this, and you can see the eyes, and the mouth was about this big. Everybody who come through the bloodline ain't blood, it ain't family. I'm just saying. Anyways. So, let me start back here. Provinces assure Ahasuerus with messages of goodwill and encouragement to confirm that these 2 days annually as a feast of Purim, decreed both by Mordecai the Jew and by Queen Esther. Indeed, the Jews themselves had decided upon this tradition as a remembrance of the time their national fasting and prayer. So the commandment of Esther confirmed these dates, and it is recorded as law. King Ahasuerus not only laid tribute upon the mainland, but even on the islands of the sea. His great deeds and also full account of the greatness of Mordecai and the honors given by the king are written in the book of the Chronicles of the king of Media and Persia. Now, mind you, remember, This stuff about the king was forged. Everything in this story was forgery. That's worse than thieving. It was forged. Everything that he wrote, when he sealed it, and he wrote it based on whatever his fake niece that he adopted was telling him. That's what people, another thing that people miss. The celebration of the death and the slaughtering that went on because they wanted authority and commerce, and it still goes on today because of a forgery. Mordecai, the Jew, was the prime minister with authority next to King Ahasuerus himself. He was, of course, very great among the Jews and respected by all of the countrymen because he did his best for the people. And he was a friend at the court. And this is where you get the ones that sell out down the line. For a beautiful woman. And she was just tricking and whoring all over the place, to the point where when she'd gone missing, her husband had and got so used to it, he'd be glad when she came back to the palace. Where you been, baby? I love you. I miss you. Baby, I want to invite 2 men that I slept with to come for dinner tonight. Now tell me the truth, baby. What went on tonight? No, I can't tell you till tomorrow. You gonna come to another dinner tomorrow? Take me to the king. Y'all better study to show thyself approved. Now, let me let you see how Esther is still being revived today just by one presidential document. I was gonna go through some other presidential documents, but I changed my mind because I done been here now an hour and 17 minutes. I wanted to just do this real quick because I am feeling a little famished. We'll go fix me something to eat. My breakfast brunch. What time is it? What time is it? Oh, wow. 3 already? Goodness. Let me look here with artificial intelligence to see if it's anything I wanted to bring out of here in my studies. I said I was going to talk about something I'm doing as far as this protocol, but I changed my mind. I'm not going to talk about that today. Okay. Okay, let me give you this little biblical geography history right here. So I asked about King Ahasuerus, and he ruled in the Persian region. And it says that was largely equivalent to modern day Iran, and it is located in the east ancient lands of Mesopotamia, Babylon, and south of the Caspian Sea. And the empire also included Central Asia, the Caucasus, the Middle East, and parts of Balkans and North Africa. The empire was known for its significant influence in Bible narratives, particularly during the periods of Jewish exiles and return. It was under the Persian rule that the Jewish people were allowed to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. They weren't allowed. They slaughtered under King Mordecai. Not King Mordecai, but Mordecai joining with Esther in her whoredom. All right. Now let me click on this Federal Register document. Here we go. Okay, I don't know if y'all can see it clearly because everything blurry to me. I don't see how I'm doing so good reading because everything really is so blurry to me. So this document is for the 20th, right? And it says actions by the United States related to statutory 4-year review of the Section 301 investigating of China's acts, policies, practices. They are the Shushans. Practices related to technology transfer, intellectual property, and innovation. So as I read through, I noticed two things that stood out to me. I'm not going to go over the date of July 23rd just yet because I need to do some more research. But the two things that stood out to me in this document, if you want to come and read the document for yourself, it's fine. But what I always and have continuously done in the past year is show the correlation between the scripture and what's going on in the Federal Register and history. History, which is historically up to date, just as the king did in his research and development and realized that things that was written in history was currently happening at that very point in time. But the thing is, he was tricked, and he was tricked by Esther, and the scheme that she did is the same reason why the ones that wear fit like Juju feel that they have this right and authority, and that we cannot open our mouth and say anything. If we say anything that's in reference to truth, they are protected just based on Esther. So again, as I went through this Federal Register document, I noticed two things. The two things that stood out to me was the chemical compounds that they're using and they're referencing to in this 301 investigation. And listen to the chemicals in trade and everything in the policies, right? It all has to do with the physical being. You, as it, all of these things are in your body. But then listen, like, okay, the lithium, which is in the batteries, the electricity, lithium ions, the non-electrical lithium ions, the natural graphite, critical minerals, permanent magnets, the magnesium, the semiconduction, which is the neural responses in your brain, the ship in the core cranes, your ship, which is the body, the solar cells, which is your eyes, and the steel and aluminum products, which is also compounds within your DNA. But then they go into personal protective equipment, which is face masks, medical gloves, syringes, and needles. Okay, so whatever is going on in their trade. Now, remember, I told y'all that no, I'm gonna skip that. I'm gonna skip that. So when I get right here, because I saw the word harmonize, this is what grasped my attention. So it says chapters 84 and 85 of the harmonized tariff schedule. And so I'm like, okay, nope, there's more to it than chapters 84 and 85. Now, I know that's not in no Bible, but it could be a term with under a codex. So I went into Codex 84, and lo and behold, here's what comes up. There's a codex called the Codex Gothinus 84. Now, as I did my research, it is directly connected to not just Esther in the Bible, and different plots in history. Here's a symbol, the Carolinian or the let's say it right, Carolingian dynasty. Lombards, Italy invaders. So whatever that they're using in their administration and law, see, it says manuscript contains laws useful for the administration. This is for them. This is a codex that they're using in the Federal Register, right? And I was like, okay, I can go further than that, because this 85 is a chemical compound, and that chemical compound is phosphorus, right? And I was telling you, the Shashun people are the first people that they decided to kill off, or they wouldn't trade with. And this was about commerce, and it was about $20 million way back then. She wasn't concerned so much about the land as she was more concerned about the Montes. And even though they didn't have a reason to kill anybody, they killed based on the Montes. And they killed off 12 tribes back then based off of the Montes. So when you see these new tribes written in Revelation, I'm now gonna, like I said, gonna do my research, because I believe these are the 12 tribes right here. And how do I know and confirm that this document, presidential document that he's throwing out right now, has to do with that time and point in the Bible and helping the Jews maintain the decree that was written back then? Is because when I typed in 85, it took me to that chemical compound of phosphoric acid. And here in the compound of the phosphoric acid, you can go look right here. Let me share this tab instead. The term under that word is Esther. See? They had certain, remember that I told you China is over the pesticide. They control the pesticide. What did he call it? They sponsor the United States under the pesticide control. And phosphoric acid is used in everything. It's all the way down to your Coca-Colas and your drinks and everything like that. Now, if they're going to stop not only their sugar exports, all these other things right here, they're going to stop. But do you think they're going to stop the part where the pesticide is going to be used? So see right here, let me make it a little bit larger. Under the name of Esther, the harmonic action that they're going to use here, share this tab, the harmonic action that they're going to use in this trade agreement to establish the war, to move forward with the war, so that the Jews can keep their decree that was written so long ago, that needs to be nullified. It needs to be destroyed. This needs to be ended on the physical realm. If people are going to be able to live here another 1,000 years in peace, because this is supposed to be a reoccurring event over and over and over. Now, if people went ahead and started having a party and celebrating every day based on the Jewish Holocaust that they talk about that happened in so-called recent events, they would be trying to kill everybody in the world, wouldn't they? But this right here event is based on, and all foundations of religion right now is based on, and every war that is continuing to go on is based on this Esther story right here. How is that fair? To this day. So again, under chapter 84 and 85 of a harmonized, they keeping the harmony going. They keeping the harmonics going of this scripture and of Esther, probably one of the most important books of the Old Testament. And when I take you back over here to Federal Register on this tab, It says cancellation of the order of the pesticide. That's just a cover up. Because look at the term under the chemical, Esther. Esther. See? February the 28th. Esther. The best. Esther. Then remember they partied afterwards, a day later. It's their honor of their celebration, Esther. Yep, she was the hoe. There you go, Idaho. I'm trying to see if I see her name again. Here, the 24th. Certain alkyl phosphate esters. This isn't Esther like the Floridana, a star. Those are spelled, that's spelled A-S-T-E-R. This is the esters, the same ones of the being that I showed yesterday. Less than fair value investigation. Initiation of a less than fair. Replaying everything. But the difference in this time is going to be fire this time. It said it won't be water, but fire next time. See? The same chemical that makes up the extinguisher, your fire extinguisher, is the same reason why they have gas mask and stuff here in this harmonic, here you go, protection when they release this mess. Am I sharing? Share this tab instead. So right here, share this tab, back in this tab. On the 20th. Here's her name again, Esther. 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 See the right to know. The right to know. Let me see something right over here. Last 30 days. Which 4 is in the last 30 days? Neship. Let's see. Greenhouse. Electric enemy elements. Greenhouse. Esters for the people, from the people, certain alkyl phosphate esters from the peoples. There's 2 of them here. Case number. Okay, and then what's this one? This one was on the 7th. HAP. Oh, Happy done came out. Surrogate for acid gas and coal fires. National emission standards for hazardous air pollutants. Coal and oil fired electric utility steam generating units. Review of the residual risk and technology review. Beyond the floor analysis. I'm not going to click onto all this other stuff. It'll take me further into a hole that I don't want to get into right now. But I definitely may come back later in regards to some other stuff. Uh-oh, they got me ready to be blocked out. They always do that, hitting my screen, talking about your browser has lost connection. But if I click, it ain't lose no connection. Count on me through thick and thin, a friendship that will never end. When you are weak, I will be strong. All right, I'm about to get off of here. Let me go eat. My stomach growling. I don't need nobody to fast for me either. I can fast for myself. Take out the S. Greater light. Greater light, greater light. King Ellis, I appreciate you. Whoever.
Authority over all things. Savior of humanity from sin and death. Redeemer of our souls from the consequences of sin. This is the nature of God.